computer. There we go. So I'm going to back up just a little bit because I wanted to get this to replay for some of our members that aren't here. So I'm going to back up. Sorry, we're going to go backwards here. So if you can't hear, make sure that you're not muted, that your sound's not turned down. If you can't hear or talk, try rebooting, or last resort, call in on the phone numbers that Zoom emailed you. Remember to only unmute when you're talking because we can hear your background noise, your dog barking, your husband or wife in the bathroom or the kitchen, and we can also hear you typing. So if you're not speaking, hey, Michael made it in. If you're not speaking, make sure to mute your sound. Also, yes, we can. Yay. The other thing to remember is if you have muted yourself, and we'll talk about how to do that here in a minute, but if you have muted yourself and you start talking, nobody's going to hear you. So I do that all the time. I start talking and I'm 10 minutes in and nobody's heard a thing I've said. So let's go on. I've got two screens and it only works if my mouse is on the right screen. Let's talk about internet connection. If you have an unstable internet connection, which my screen just told me I do, I'm on Google Fiber. I thought that was the best internet connection there is, but internet's going in and out a little bit. But one of the key things is if you're hosting and you have an unstable internet connection, and enable in the settings when you set up your meeting to allow participants to participate without you. That way, if your internet goes down, you can go call in on something else, but it won't stop the meeting. It can keep going. And if you just have totally unstable internet, I would just call in on a phone and run it on a phone anyway. Let's see. So let's all find your control bar for those of you that are new. Usually your control bar is going to be at the top of the screen that's showing or the bottom. Yesterday mine kept moving and I couldn't figure out why, but sometimes it's the top, sometimes it's the bottom. And this is how you run your whole entire show, if you're running the show or if you're participating. So even if you're just watching in, find your control bar, and we got to talk about a few things on our control bar. So first, the mute and unmute. Has everybody found your control bar? Wave if you found your control bar. Okay, mine won't come back down. There we go. So look for a microphone. That's your mute and unmute. And I understand you can also use the space bar, although I couldn't get it to work on my computer. That's probably because I'm running two screens. Is that how it works, Brett?
Yes.
I just did it now. That was my first test of it.
All right. Everybody, you can mute and unmute, see if you can make it work. We've got people coming in. We got Kim and we got Michael, and Michelle and Tariq and Nelson and Mitch. And Michael finally got his sound to work. Bob, Andrea, Alan. Okay, so we'll go on. So mute and unmute and turning on your camera. Those of us that you're seeing, we have our cameras on. So if you're on your control bar, you can start and stop your video. And if you're having a meeting with a large group of people and you're shy, you might not want to turn it on. But if you're having cocktails with friends, which I saw a lot of people were doing that last night on Facebook, turning on your camera lets people see you and lets you see their facial expressions. And on an event I was on the other day, they're like, make sure to talk with your hands in front of the camera so people see your hands and your expressions. I don't know. But you can start and stop video, and there's a few other things on there that I found. So let's play with this a little bit. This was kind of fun. You can choose a virtual background. So if you're at your camera and you see the little drop-down menu button, the little down caret, you can click choose a virtual background. I already went in and uploaded some, so I'll show you what it looks like. This is just a picture off my computer. Now I'm sitting in the middle of the Lake of the Ozarks on my boat. Or I found a nice spring picture, so I'm sitting on a cliff at the side of the Lake of the Ozarks with the redbuds in the background, or maybe they're the dogwoods, I'm not sure. So that's how virtual background works. And I'm going to turn that off so I can see my screen. Tidy my appearance. I didn't notice it did this, but that's one of the settings. You can click tidy your appearance. So I guess it makes you look better on the screen. didn't really see any difference. For those of us, let's see, mirror my screen. I was gonna wear my Chiefs shirt so we could see what that looks like, but I guess Zoom automatically flips your screen so that everything's backwards on the internet. I have no idea, but if you're trying to hold words up to the screen,
and the reason
background, it doesn't work. So let's.
Hey, Kim, the reason they do that is because some people are zooming from their phones. And if you've ever noticed, sometimes when you see pictures that people put up from their phones, the image is reversed. It has to do with the camera that's in the phones. So this feature reverses that for you.
Right. So if
It's not
you're trying to hold
necessary
something up to the camera like this and it's backwards, you need to mirror your screen so it'll make the words go in the right direction. Although I would say if you're doing words, you're probably going to be better off using PowerPoint. Although you've seen the videos on the internet where they're doing cards. So if you're going to do that, you want to mirror your screen. Video and audio settings. I would say if you're going to host a meeting, go in and play with the different settings and see what they do, because you never know. Sometimes they do some interesting things. Are there any video and audio settings that everybody should know about, Brett?
The main thing is if you are seeing a lot of cutting outs, like if it's buffering a lot or it gets pixelated, if you go into the video settings, you can also turn down, one, you can change it from the widescreen aspect to original, and you can turn off HD or high definition. It'll come across a little bit lower quality, but it won't take as much bandwidth on your internet speed, so that it should flow a little bit more smoothly.
All right. And let's see here. Oh, I got a blank participant button. So if you all go down and find the participant button, if you can click on that, whoops, I can't work my mouse today. If we go find the participant button, you can click on that and it'll open up the list of participants somewhere on your screen. Or if you're on dual screens, mine's on a completely different one. And what's unique here is you can go in, you can hover your mouse over your own profile to get the blue buttons. One says mute and one says more. If you click on more, you can rename yourself. So you could rename yourself something else. More than likely, you're going to want to name yourself who you are so people can see who you are. But where that really comes in helpful is if you dial in by phone, all they're going to see is your phone number. So the host, or if they have helpers like Brett and Holly, they could go in and edit anybody's name. So if we just had a phone number up here for Alan and we knew that was Alan, once we figured that out, we could go rename Alan instead of 913-208-3544, we could give him his real name so that we know who he is. That is helpful so everybody can participate with each other. Editing your name, chat. So if you're in, at least when I was participating last night, when I was in the participant box at the bottom, I also had a chat button. My screen is going to be a little bit different from yours, but if you hunt around, you will find a chat button. Can everybody find a chat button? Everybody's looking. It's also, at least for me, it's in the control bar too, in the more button. So if I open up my control bar, my 3 dots with more, chat is in there. And Michelle can't hear us.
I'm addressing her directly.
Okay, perfect. So if you can find the chat button and open up the chat, we can go up to the top and you can see here everybody's messages. So you can open it up, and at the very bottom is where you send messages, and you can pick who you want to send it to. You can send a message to everyone. Can everybody find that? Wave if you can find that. Nobody's paying attention to me. So if you can find on chat, everyone, you can send a message to everyone. or you could pick out individual people. So you could have a conversations between yourselves, and not everybody can see it, saying, hey, Kim's boring. We're going to go do something else today. Somebody joined us, but I'm not sure who. So that is how we work with chat. I am recording this, so if we get a little bit lost, we can replay it. So chat, raising our hands, and I have no idea how to do that.
It's in the chat box. It appears at the bottom of the participants list. And that'd be something that'd be good to use for our larger meetings. Instead of people just unmuting and jumping in, they should raise their hand. I clicked mine, so you guys can hopefully see that on yours. It'll show on the participants list. And then so any of our admins that are going to be with you on your meetings, we should be the ones watching for that. And then we can then go to them and say, you know, what's your question? And then divert that to the presenter so that they can repeat the question and answer it.
What's really strange is I can't find a way for me to raise my hand. Maybe as a host, you can do that?
You need to bring up your participants window, which is in the toolbar at the bottom. And then it appears at the bottom of the participants window.
Kim, it might be under more.
I'm trying that. It says participant can chat with Lyle, everyone. But there is no raise. It was yesterday. There was a raise hand button, but doesn't seem to be now. Let's try over here. Oh, well. I'm going to assume everybody else can raise their hand and that Brett and Holly can see it.
Yes.
And I'll play with it some more and figure out where it is.
I saw David Johns. I saw Andrea Saxion, Michael Rabe, Holly Jackson. So yeah, they're coming up and working just fine.
All right. Well, I just don't have a raise hand button. I'm sure I do. I just can't find it.
Well, you are also the presenter, so maybe that's why you don't.
That's probably it. I tried to watch like a whole bunch of how-to videos on Zoom, but I couldn't like pay attention. So I gave up and said, let's go do trial by fire. It's easier. So that's kind of it on Zoom. Did I miss anything that was really important or that people might have had questions on? Okay, let's see what we've got in the messages here. So no video or audio. Mitch is joining us and listening in. We've got some stuff on the SBA loan that offers a great aspect. You don't have to pay it back if the use of the loan is for salary, rent, mortgages, and etc. Brett shared a link to the SBA loan information, and Mitch Gale is waving virtually. Dan, I'm not going to murder your last name, Dan. But hey, guys, I just wanted to stop in because I'm new to the group. I'm pretty good at Zoom meetings already, so I'm going to come back to the next one. So we must have lost him. We have more information from Brett on using Zoom. Did we get Michelle logged in?
Yes, I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yay! Thanks to Brett. Waving.
I switched computers.
All right. Sometimes that's the way to go. I had, this was very unique. The MAREI meeting, the last live one last month, I had just gotten a brand new Surface computer that day and I hadn't even taken it out of the box. And at the end of the meeting, I closed my old computer, stuck it in the bag, and it fell out of the car on the way home and it's never started again. So I'm just lucky I had a new computer, and I'm telling you, the Surface is amazing. I hated the old computer I hated it. So I wanted to also direct everybody, if you're looking for events, a lot of the groups are figuring out how to use Zoom. A lot of them all canceled, but I'm asking everybody that has a group that meets that if they are still meeting to let me know. And I'm trying to put that on the MAREI calendar as I find out. In the next week, we are having a meeting to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the market. And Julie Anderson is going to join us with some legal issues dealing with our tenants and the mortgage forbearance and the no rent situation. And auction.com will be having their free class on foreclosure auctions at the courthouse, only they're going to do it on Zoom. And I haven't got the link yet, but if you register for that workshop through the MAREI calendar, Rachel Bailey will get you the link so you can join that workshop on Zoom. Next week, I'm still trying to find out if House Traders and what is the other one? Casey House Traders and Deal Makers. I'm going to see if they're still having their meetings or if they have canceled them. But we're trying to have a few more, and we're still having the MAREI meeting. Michelle's one of our guest speakers next month. So we're going to learn Michelle's story then. And then I also wanted to thank all of our members that have joined us on here today to help us learn how to do this. And I'm actually going to, at least the Zoom part, or I'll probably share all of this. We are recording it. I am going to share that to the MAREI membership. I'm going to put it in the web on the, if you log into mareimember.com, I'm going to find a place to put it somewhere so that if we wanted to come back and grab a tidbit, we could do that. But what I really wanted to do was kind of just hear from everybody to find out what's going on in their world. And let's unraise some hands and go one by one. Let's see here. So I'll just start at the top of my list. Well, my list keeps changing. I'm going to go, well, let's just start with Brett. I'm going to let Brett talk because he's right there and he's been sharing. What are you seeing happening in your world out there, Brett?
Well, coming as a real estate agent and a flipper, first thing that we come about was also trying to find who's essential, what we can do, what we can't do. KCRAR has posted information about such. Basically, we're prohibited from open houses. If we must have a showing or something, then we have to follow the criteria for protection and distancing and things like that. But we're being told that you can still have inspections, you can still have the appraisers come in. There should be scheduled separately, and sellers should make sure that the the lights are turned on, and just let the agent in, and then the agent takes care of everything, and then you basically just make it so that the inspector can come in or the appraiser can come in and get out without touching anything. And you're supposed to have things like cleaning materials so that you can follow up before leaving to make sure everything is sterile again. So it's just basically some rules. As a flipper, I'm working on a house, and my contractor said he's basically been told the same news, that he can go and work on the house. He has to be careful with his employees. He's pretty much given them the choice whether they want to show or not. Of course, they're not paid if they don't. But if they do show, they're being encouraged to wash their hands frequently, and and so forth and so on. But otherwise, work is continuing, so it's possible to still get things done. As an agent too, my brokerage office, Keller Williams Legacy Partners, we've pretty much jumped onto the Zoom things as well for all of our meetings. We're not meeting in the office anymore, but it's working pretty well. And just like we're doing here, this is working great. Sales wise too, I was mentioning at the beginning to Kim that I'm seeing signs come up. Listings are happening. It's really not slowing down. We're still seeing something of a spring pop physically. I've actually saw like 20 signs go up in 2 neighborhoods up near the flip that I'm working on. One of them has even got a contract pending within the last couple of days. So I know things are still happening. So count that as a good sign.
Yay. Holly, you have anything to share? What's happening in your world? Have you got a house to sell? What's going on with Holly?
Yeah, I've got a house that went under contract yesterday, and I am closing on a house on Tuesday, and I just tried to reach out to the seller's agent to make sure that they were able to still move out and everything's still going to go as planned. So things are still moving, but yeah, it's been really tentative, and then homeschooling on top of now work is really fun.
Tell me about it.
Well, Michelle, since you're right there, what's going on with you? What's going on? What have you been seeing out there?
Well, I did have my first virtual closing, so that was different. I was actually in the office. The title company was only allowing, you had to have an appointment and only you could come. So my realtor comes to the closing with me, but we had her on, I think, FaceTime, and she was like sitting there in the office with us, but she wasn't there physically. So that was different, but they were doing very, well, I guess I don't know if they were just letting like one person at a time, or I don't know how they were doing it. It was just different for me, but I did have one closing and I've got 2 projects going. I'm trying not to act in fear, but to, just be smart about how I move forward. But it's good to know that things are still being listed. My realtor told me, she said, I haven't even had a chance to quarantine because people are still listing houses, people are still buying houses. So it feels good. So I'm just having to kind of be smart about how I'm moving forward. But my guys are still working. I'm kind of a humorous person. So I'm always yelling social distance, because they kind of start gathering. But we're making light of it, but still being, staying on top of everything. I'm crazy in there with the Lysol, wiping everything down. But I mean, in this business, we have to keep moving forward. I'm just grateful that we are considered essential and we can continue to move forward.
Michael, what are you seeing? Can you share with us? You got to unmute.
Nothing really. My wife's an agent, a real estate agent, and just like Brett was saying, it's still pretty crazy. Multiple offers and higher than asking price on a lot of the properties that she's dealing with. As far as me for a landlord, all my rentals so far are paying the rent. I'm just crossing my fingers. We're trying to decide, it'd probably be next month when they don't, if some of them don't start paying the rent, how we want to work with them. I guess what we're going to try to do is just try to work out a plan for them to catch up on back payments when money starts to come in. It's not their fault, even though, all of the stuff from Washington is to take care of the tenants, but the landlords have to make payments too. So, but we're going to try to work out with our tenants if they don't pay their rent or only pay part of it, future payment plan for them. That's about it.
All right, and David Johns, what's going on with you out there?
Okay, so I've got 13 rental properties in the Missouri side, South Kansas City, Grandview, and Dalton. And I've got a management company in Grandview who handles everything, and they do a great job of collecting rent, screening tenants and everything. So A1 Properties, I talked to them last week, and they pretty much stopped interacting with tenants. Everything's virtual there. They go to the office and handle calls, but they don't meet anybody at the office. So they're doing everything virtually, I guess, to keep from interacting with tenants, to minimize exposure, the whole social distancing thing. So last month, the 13 houses, they all but one made payments on time, and the one who didn't has possible medical conditions. So in March, I didn't see any rent payment issues. I don't know if some of them are going to lose their jobs or not, but as the previous speaker said, maybe I'll see some late payments next month. Hopefully not, knock on wood. And other than that, I've had some issues with contractors not being able to go over. Maybe, I don't know if it has anything to do with COVID-19 or not, but I've just had some issues, repair issues, and it may be irrelevant to the virus thing. But other than that, things are going okay so far.
Anybody else out there want to share that doesn't have a mic? What is it? A camera on? Let's see here. Anybody? Nobody's going to be brave. I'm going to call on Kim Pittman. Kim Pittman, can you unmute and tell us what's going on? Oh, you got a camera too. Yay.
I'm trying to get caught up on paperwork.
Wow.
He's
So
been-
what's going on out in your neck of the woods?
We're focusing more on the investment side right now than the real estate side, just because a lot of buyers don't want people in and out of their house, even with the precautions. So, but things are still rolling on this side. So we got rehabs going, and my investors are still buying. So it's still good. Eastern Jackson County didn't do our March meeting, but we will April. If we have to do it through Zoom, if this isn't lifted with the stay-at-home order, then that's what we'll do. So, but I'll get you the link if we end up doing it with Zoom.
Okay, I've got some of the comments here. I'm sure everybody's read them. Brett has got a PSA. Please don't use Zoom while driving. Very good, unless you're just calling in and you have it over your speakers. Kim is telling us they're not having a meeting in March, but will in April. Holly I'm wondering if everyone is changing the way they're estimating ARVs for flipping to resell. Is anyone predicting a dip in value or continuing business as usual? Does anybody, I'm going to share what I've heard. All the gurus out there are going great guns saying, buy my latest marketing tool in the world and get out there and start marketing, because this is going to be the greatest time ever to buy houses, because there's going to be fewer buyers, less investors are going to be buying. They're all predicting a dip in the low end and the high end overall. And right now, what I see happening here in Kansas City is probably the same thing that happened back in 2008, 9, and 10. I think we'll have a slowdown because of people not working. So a few people aren't going to be buying houses, and we're going to see more foreclosures hitting the market because people didn't pay their mortgage or didn't get their rents to pay their mortgage. I think we'll see a few more of that. But overall, in the long term, on the houses that landlords buy and the houses that average people live in, so the median price range, say maybe 80,000 to about 250, 300. I see them being fairly consistent in the next year, because they really didn't change a lot in 08 or 09, but I could be totally wrong. Does anybody else have thoughts on that?
I more or less agree, except for I don't think home values will slip, and I don't think flip ARVs will slip. I think because inventory will continue to be tight, it's going to keep the prices up. We might see something of a pop in the coastlines in New York, where the damage is much greater to employment. They could see some drops in values, but just like 2008 and 2009, the Midwest usually keeps pretty temperate with that and doesn't see the same effect. So
that give you some insight, Holly. That's kind of what we're talking here in our office, is just be cautious. And the other thing is, if you're wholesaling, I'm hearing all the hard money lenders are still lending, but a lot of them are backing off on their criteria. So for example, I had a tear down house that we were working on buying, and then we were going to assign it. And it was a house that if they rebuilt, it would be a $700,000 to $1 million house in Prairie Village. And all of the builders, none of them have any cash that they can buy anything right now, because I had 4 or 5 people that wanted to buy it, but they couldn't get any money. So I think we're going to see investors that have to borrow from traditional lenders struggling to buy a little bit, but those that have private money or access to other ways of funding deals are going to be buying a lot of houses.
on that particular note about private investors, I like to throw in, because I'm using one currently, and I just kind of rubbed elbows with him a little bit and talked about the situation and how I'm talking to the hard money lender, and he's talking about his investors that fund the deals, and that basically they don't see themselves under the same rules as what's coming up on the mortgage moratorium. So they're still expecting the investors to be paid back on their loans, and that most of them are not providing extensions due to COVID-19. That might change, if rules come out to say that they are covered in that, so we might watch for that. But otherwise, I expect if you're a flipper and you currently use hard money, expect that you're going to have to continue to pay those or risk incurring charges or foreclosure.
I would also say, if you think there's going to be a problem on getting your loans paid, especially with private money or hard money, reach out to them now. I mean, some of the hard money lenders, they're out there to make you a loan, and if you fail, they want your house. That's why they're being hard money lenders. But a lot of your private money lenders and your hard money lenders will work with you, I'm assuming, because most of them, they're going to want their interest overall. But I mean, I had one hard money loan private money loan that I was working on last year, and we were trying to refinance the house, and the refinance took 45 days longer. So the private money lender wasn't going to foreclose on us for 45 days. Mitch is asking guidelines for showing rentals to prospective tenants when the rental is currently occupied. Anybody have any guidelines on that? I really haven't seen any guidelines on that. Yeah, I'm going to say no.
Need to talk to someone who has properties on that one. How are they handling those things? I would think you would have to have permission from the current tenant, and if they won't allow a person in, then you might have to use another model apartment to base it on, or past photos. I don't know, anyone else got insight on that?
I'm going to say virtual tours if they'll let you in to do a virtual tour, but I'm going to say we're probably going to just have to not show it is what I'm thinking. Somebody else popped in here. I'm going to go through my questions. Okay, who am I with? So Mitch also has, where is Mitch? Mitch, do you have a microphone? Can you talk? Mitch, tell us a little bit more about your questions. We'd love to hear from you. I guess he's not going to talk, or he can't talk.
He's unmuted, but we're not hearing him.
Okay. So he was asking about guidelines. Do my current tenants have the right to say no? I'm going to say they probably do. And then I have a robust, empathetic, firm tenant letter addressing it. Yes, that's true. I want to make a comment here. Mark De La Torre with SBD Housing has a firm letter that he sent out to his tenants, and he recorded a video that he put on the internet for his tenants, and it is making the internet, it's blowing up the internet with lots of horribly bad comments from all kinds of tenants and tenant advocacy groups. So if you're going to do a video for your tenants, I would say don't do it and don't put it on the internet, because he's like, I'll work with you. You have to call me. But if you don't make any arrangements, just don't pay rent, we're going to file eviction. So I would say if you don't do a video, I highly recommend to not do a video, because the tenants are blowing it way out of proportion. What has Brett got here? Brett, shelters dip, and
that's what we were already talking about.
yeah, and Mitch will also share his letter. Mitch can't talk, so okay. Nelson, you've got your camera on. What are you seeing happening out there in the world?
Hey, good morning, guys. I didn't know if this was like we were going to be talking, so I just had all of my stuff off mute for a little while. So real quick to Mitch's question, what our office is doing, I'm with Key Partners, and I manage some rentals, but our office is doing like a 4 questionnaire that we have to have buyer's agents sign and that type of thing for health. So I would suspect it's probably to deal with like your tenants, to deal with the same way. If you have a prospective person coming through the property, are they sick? Have they done this? Have they done that? And so it's full disclosure. That's probably the way that I would recommend handling it.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen here for a minute if I can figure out how to do that. I want to share this screen. So is it sharing my screen?
No.
I don't see it yet.
Oh, I got to click one more button. There we go.
It is.
So you can see the MAREI website.
Yes.
I wanted to direct you to the coronavirus update. If you click on that, as I'm getting information, I am sharing it here. I'm going to add some more resources right here, but National Association of Realtors has some guidelines. KCRIR has some guidelines. Where's the one I want? I've lost it. I've had it pulled up and it went away. NARPM, National Association of Property Managers, have a few guidelines. KCRIR. So I would like, if you're looking for guidelines, go to the trade association for that industry. So like the home builders have guidelines, and I'm sure there's some information on there, but I will add them all to this coronavirus update page. But as I'm getting information, I'm putting it on here. Also for dealing with tenants, if we go down and find Julie's beautiful picture, she has her updates on what she's saying you should do. So I very definitely take the time to read that. But as I get information that's important, I am trying to make sure that I share it on this page, and Holly's sharing some of that on our newsletter that goes out on Fridays. We're not trying not to give you like 100 articles on COVID-19. We're trying to keep it all on the website and sharing the more interesting ones. So I'm going to stop my share.
Kim, could I say one more thing on the tenants and stuff?
Uh-huh.
I found it really interesting. I've reached out to all my tenants. I don't manage a lot, but I have about a half a dozen doors. And I found it really interesting because through this whole thing, I've been sending them text messages. I've been keeping up, them up to date with stuff. But as a landlord, I think a lot of people have fear that they're not going to pay. And a lot of my tenants are treating it as, just another day. And I have a few people that are in the medical field and that type of thing. And they appreciate you showing concern. They appreciate you being there with information, that type of thing, but just not coming across in fear,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of interesting.
I've heard that. And I actually had I don't know if you saw me on Channel 9. They called and wanted to know our take on it. And I'm like, well, every post, every comment I'm seeing from landlords across the country is they're all working with their tenants. And for the most part, the tenants are working with their landlords. So this tenant against the landlord thing is really and truly, I think the tenant advocacy groups are creating more of a friction than really is there. So at least in my opinion. So anyone else have a question, something to share, or do we want to go outside and see if the sun is shining?
I just had a question about the next meeting. Is it on the 14th of April?
Okay, we have, let me screen share here. I got to remember, share my screen, go to the MAREI website. Here we go. So if we go, this is actually the NARPM page. They have guidelines as well. But for the MAREI page, this is today's meeting. We are actually having a mini meeting. We're going to do, this is another test meeting, but more to get some input from our industry experts and from Julie on Tuesday. That's this coming Tuesday on the 31st. And then we're going to attempt a real MAREI meeting on Zoom. So we're going to have the networking like we did today. Zoom will be on and open before 6, so you can get online and you can chat like we've been doing here, or you can individually message people. And then just to get everybody on, I won't do that the whole hour. What I was thinking is at about 6:15, we go to a haves and wants. That's something that a lot of the smaller groups do, and some of the RIAs across the nation do, where by raising your hand, you can share, this is what I have. I have a house to sell, I have flooring to sell, or this is what I want. I need deals, I need private money, whatever it is, we can go through and do that. We'll do a few announcements and let our vendors share, and then we're going to turn it over to our lovely ladies here to hear what they do in real estate and their tips. I've asked them to share, one of their best deals or what they recommend for new investors getting started in their field. Michelle, who's on the call today, I can't remember exactly when she joined MAREI, but it was not very long ago. And she came in, she learned how to wholesale, and now she's a full-time real estate investor wholesaling and rehabbing houses. Is that her popping back in? So Michelle's going to join us and be one of our speakers on the 14th. So what are you going to share with us a little bit on the 14th? What have you planned?
Well, kind of telling my story, how it started, like you said, discussing the nervousness. I remember my first MAREI meetings coming and not really knowing how to network, but just continuing to show up. And that's really just, it's about confidence and continuing to put one foot in front of the other. I've decided, because I'm not really like a speaker or anything, I said I'll just tell my real story, because I was once that new person, which I still am, but that new person that didn't really know the right questions to ask, or might have been nervous and things like that. And so just to be an encouragement to anybody that is curious, or, you know, wanting to get in but just scared or something like that, I just want to come at the angle of just being an encouragement, being a woman in a male dominated field, you know, learning how to deal with the guys, because I'm the little lady in charge and I've got all these guys around me. It could be intimidating. Well, it used to be intimidating, but learning how to juggle that part of it, and just kind of telling my story from when I got fired from my job and just deciding to just go full on head first in real estate, and just some of the bumps along the road, some of the rewards, and, you know, some of the consequences, you know, some of my decisions and things like that.
Well, that'll be great. And then our other two ladies, and sorry guys, somebody was mad, why are we doing just women? I'm like, it's because usually we only have men speaking at MAREI, so we wanted to do a women's panel. Jennifer Langston Justice is, I've been slowly learning her story. She's a real estate investor that I've done a lot of stuff with in the last couple of years on advocacy. She's like the advocacy chair for KCRER, and in Missouri, she's very active as well. But she started her real estate investing career right out of high school, flipping foreclosures, and now she has over a $500,000 portfolio of rentals. So she's going to share her story. And I wanted to get a little bit different perspective. McKaylee Beach works with US REIB, and they sell turnkey houses. So she's going to bring in how she basically runs US REIB here in Kansas City. If you want to sell a house to them, you call her. If you want to buy a house from them, you call her. So we're going to have her share her story too. So we're going to do that in April. We probably won't meet for pizza in the bar, unless you all want to bring your own pizza and your own bar, and we might do that after the meeting. We might have a meeting after the meeting, and we'll just see how long people stick online. But we're planning the normal meeting for the most part on the 14th, and I've talked to a few other groups that held their normal meeting on Zoom in the last couple weeks, and they've all said that they're actually their participants sort of liked it better in some aspects. So we'll see how that goes, and we hope you all can join us. The April MAREI meeting is open to the general public because it is our first trial at this. But if we have to continue in lockdown for a few more months, all of our normal, you have to be a member and you need to register or pay a guest fee. The guest fee will probably go down, but we'll see what we're going to do in May. I haven't figured out a speaker in May. I'm kind of holding off, waiting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks before I put a speaker on the plan for May. In June, we have a really interesting speaker coming in. He does creative financing deals, and he recently sold his house. He has enough rentals that he doesn't have to be at home, and they travel the country in their RV, and they're speaking. But they used to run a RIA in their own town. They shut it down because they got tired and they didn't want to run their RIA anymore, and so they stopped having meetings in the hotel, and everybody just started driving to their house and showing up on meeting nights. So their members would not let them shut their RIA meeting down. They all just showed up at their house instead of having the meeting anyway. So they had to sell their house to stop having their RIA meetings so the people would stop showing up. So they're joining us in June. That may be live, it may be virtual, we'll see. But that's all I really have, unless anybody else has something else to share.
Can you share just the logistics? Like, do people need to register online in order to get a link to the meeting, or is the link going to be shared for everyone?
For right now, it's set up that you have to register through MAREIMember.com, just like you normally have to register, and then you'll get the link to join by Zoom. I may change that the day of the meeting, because That might be a little cumbersome. I just haven't figured out the best way to do it. But right now you need to register at mareimember.com just like a normal meeting. And then the system will email you the link to join in on Zoom. I might just put the link right up on the web page closer to the day. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do that without making Holly's life really hard to figure out who's here and who's not. So, but we'll work through it. Any other
Holly
questions?
can handle it. Holly can handle it.
If you guys don't know Holly and Brett runs the sound at the meeting, and Holly is one of our people that work at the check-in desk, but she's the one in charge. So I had one meeting where nothing was working at all, and nobody even told me until they'd already solved the problem. Between Brett and Holly, they figured out how to run the meeting with no internet. So that's a challenge, is to check people in with no internet when everything we have is on the internet. So they are our staff. I have a few other staff that help. So if it wasn't for them, I don't think our meetings would quite come off the way they're supposed to. Any other questions or anything that anybody else wants to share?
I'm hearing April Fool's Day has been canceled. I'm really hoping not, though. I've got some great pranks in mind.
Oh, well, your family and your wife will love you. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us for this practice call. I think I know I've worked out a few kinks and figured out how a few things work. So hopefully you all will take this. You can go get a free Zoom account and you can go have cocktails or a lunch or dinner. I'm going to show this to my sister so we can hopefully not have to use it for Easter, but we might Zoom Easter. We'll see how that goes. I need a virtual Easter egg hunt. I don't know how to do that, but if anybody has ideas, let me know, because we have 37 kids that need a virtual Easter egg hunt.
Excellent.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to shut it off, go outside and enjoy the sunshine.
Bye-bye.
Okay, end meeting for all. Well, thank you guys for helping me.